Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. A few comments from Katie Taylor ahead of what is her rematch with Amanda Serrano. On Amanda Serrano's claim that Katie has learned to lose, I don't know what learn to lose means, but I haven't lost. I came back in fantastic fashion, and at the first fight, I did win a fight. The right winner won. It was a fantastic fight, but the right winner won, and I plan to do the same thing on July 20th. I'm sitting beside Mike Tyson here. This is the winner's table, right here.
My thoughts.
Katie Taylor's drive and competitiveness is a big part of the reason she has been so successful in her professional boxing career that mirrors her amateur career. She was successful in the amateurs, she's successful in the pros, and that mentality, that champion's mindset, will be with her long after she's left the sport of boxing. The mindset will be there, but will the ability?
A big part of the reason Katie has been so successful is her speed. Her hand speed, her foot speed, and her agility, as it were. But at 37 years old, is she agile enough to shake and bake Amanda Serrano? Or, like in the first fight, does she get sucked into a war?
It's yet another reason Katie Taylor has been more successful than some other female fighters. It's because she loves a good tear-up. She loves a good brawl. She doesn't have to have them, but she does anyway. The drama, the crowd's reaction, it all has lended itself to her profile and her success. But here at 37 years old, the question is, can she afford to?
Afford another one.
The first fight was 2 years ago. I know it doesn't feel like it, but the first fight was a ways back, and she's been in wars since then. The first war with Chantel Cameron, the second war with Chantel Cameron.
You know, I'm a fan of both.
But I'm being objective. I have to call it down the middle. I have to look at the situation, look at the fight, look at the circumstances and the build-up.
She's got a box.
You can't go in there trading punches mid-range to inside with Amanda Serrano, who hurt you the first time out. Up there at 140 pounds, she might hurt you even more.
You know, with the guys, it's different. A featherweight, 126-pound male, moving all the way up to 140, their goose is cooked.
If you make a jump like that from 126 straight up to 140, if it were a guy, they're gonna get beat. But with the girls, it is a bit different. I mean, we saw Natasha Jonas move up from 130 up to 154. Terry Harper did the same thing. Now, Amanda Serrano is set to make a similar leap, up from 126 to 140, and I don't think it's gonna hurt her.
It's different with the girls. I'm not exactly sure why.
Maybe it's because Amanda has been there before, at least once. She won a WBO title there. Maybe it's because Amanda might feel invigorated, not having to boil down to 126. She can eat.
We know that her power carries. We know that at 135 pounds, she had enough power to hurt Katie. That was at 135. She might still have enough to hurt her at 140.
So for Katie, she's got to keep this a boxing match. She can't afford to get into another shootout. Not at this age. Not at 37. She's got to use her legs, if she can, move around, and maintain distance where Amanda has to close it. For Amanda, it's the opposite. She's got to stop this from being a boxing match and turn it into a brawl. Turn it into a shootout.
Work the body.
And shoot the uppercut up the middle when you're within striking distance. For Amanda, she's got to turn this into a fight.
I didn't even think we were going to see a rematch.
To be completely honest with you, I thought that both fighters were satisfied with their initial meeting and put it out of their minds. That this kind of effort has gone into getting them both back in the ring accents the growth of women's boxing, that the first fight was so good, how could there not be another? And they're both being paid well, very well, to run it back. But initially, I didn't think there was going to be a rematch.
That is, when the rematch collapsed, when Amanda was injured and Chantel ended up standing in her place, I thought there's not going to be a second fight.
I suppose it's a blessing in disguise, because what they're being paid now versus what they would have been paid then, what they're being paid now is a lot better.
So that's good.
Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano currently rank at number 1 and number 2 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. In a legacy sense, I guess it's only right that they run it back, that they do it one more time.
Amanda wins could turn into a trilogy.
Irrespective of who wins, going into a second fight between them, you know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be entertaining.
Amanda wants to knock her out.
She doesn't want to leave it in the judge's hands this time. She's going to go in there with a different intensity, and she is younger than Katie Taylor. There's no shame in Katie losing to Amanda, just like there was no shame in Amanda losing to Katie, because they're both that accomplished, and they're both that good.
So Amanda wants to knock her out.
She's got a chip on her shoulder because she knows she can hurt her. She didn't know that before, but she knows that now.
We'll see what happens.
Men's super lightweight, or welterweight news, because this is Ryan Garcia we're talking about here. Tomorrow, the 22nd, his B sample is scheduled to be opened. And we've heard no recent news, no recent revelations that perhaps his test came out positive due to tainted supplements. If it were supplements and they were tested and that were confirmed, we would have heard about it by now. Maybe we'll hear about it tomorrow. Maybe we won't. But we haven't heard that yet.
That was the situation with Dillian White, though it took Dillian White several weeks and several months to clear his name and return to the sport of boxing.
Remember, he tested positive ahead of what was supposed to be the Anthony Joshua rematch last year, and we hadn't seen him since then. He spent that entire time running his own investigation in order to clear his name, and it was confirmed that what they found in his system came from tainted supplements. Coincidentally, that's been a part of the story, a part of Ryan's story, what some have been saying, but he's already said so much.
Is it from tainted supplements, or is it that the Haney's and Victor Conti got together and set you up? Is that what it was? Or is it that you shadowboxed for Donald Trump and the lizard people and the elites? They all got together.
The Illuminati didn't like that, so they decided to silence Ryan Garcia. Which one is it?
Feels like we haven't talked about this in a while.
With good reason. We've had better things to talk about and better things to think about than Ryan Garcia's anti-doping fiasco. This past week, all the attention was focused on the undisputed heavyweight title fight.
The way it is in boxing, and the health of the overall sport, is often measured by what's happening at heavyweight or what isn't happening, because there's nothing, absolutely nothing, like a heavyweight title fight. And when the heavyweights are rocking and rolling, that monopolizes all of the attention.
Which at least temporarily took the attention away from Ryan Garcia and his anti-doping fiasco, but attention may shift back to it tomorrow when the B sample is opened. Being honest with you, I expect what they found in the A sample to be in the B sample, because it's the same piss divided into two bottles.
That's how it usually goes.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of a situation where they cracked open a B sample and it was clean. Usually, when they crack open the B sample, it's the same as the A sample.
Usually.
Expert in the field, Angel Memo Heredia said that when they crack open Ryan's B samples, the levels are going to be higher, slightly higher in the B samples than they were in the A samples. I don't know why, but that's what he said.
He would know.
So much of what Victor Conti, yet another expert in the field, has said has been dismissed on the premise that he's in cahoots with the Haneys and he sabotaged Ryan's test samples, that he's the one behind all of this. But what about Angel Heredia? He's not friends with Victor Conti, he's not connected to the Haneys, and he's been saying the same thing that Victor Conti has been saying.
They don't acknowledge it.
They don't acknowledge him, because if they do, they have to deal with an inconvenient truth. That the more you look at it, the more it looks like Ryan was doping. He knew what he was doing, he knew exactly what he was doing, but he thought he could get away with it, the way a lot of these guys do.
And girls.
Though I myself am not that altruistic. Ryan, to me, is just another dirty fighter that got caught in a sea of dirty fighters that have been caught. His story and all of his behaviors and explanations are tell-them age. It's what you expect. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got there. I'm being set up.
Haven't heard that before.
It's all run-of-the-mill, and we are just going through the motions. Though once again, I'm not that altruistic. You know, Tyson Fury, who fought this weekend, he had his own anti-doping case several years ago, and that didn't stop me from watching his fight this weekend. The same applies to a lot of fighters that have tested positive for banned substances. So when I think about Ryan, it's not actually the end of the world that he pissed hot.
It never was.
Because I'm not that altruistic, and neither are you. If you were, well, I guess you don't watch Canelo fights, or Tyson Fury, or Dillian White.
Or Luis Nery, you must have missed his fight with Inouye because he pissed hot once too.
What are you saying?
That all of this has been blown out of proportion because fighters testing positive for banned substances has never stopped an audience from watching them. And the punishment, the penalties for fighters who do piss hot in the sport of boxing, they've never been all that harsh. Boxing has had a revolving door policy when it comes to banned substances for years.
Jarrell Miller tested positive for several banned substances, not once, but twice. And that didn't stop him from getting a big Saudi payday. Hell, he's got another fight on schedule with Andy Ruiz.
Paid for by the Saudis.
If you're confused and you're not understanding what I'm saying,
Listen.
if they open up that B sample tomorrow and it tests positive, the same as the A sample, Ryan will be handed a provisional suspension. They'll call it a year, but it's really 6 months. So long as he cooperates with an anti-doping protocol, and he'll be back before you know it. He'll be back on the same schedule that he would have been back had he not pissed hot. Because when have the punishments for this ever been all that harsh?
When?
If it were in the UK, I could see. In the UK, this could get you banned for 4 years, but it wasn't in the United Kingdom. This happened in the United States.
Punishments here are not that harsh for a fighter who tests positive for a banned substance. They never were.
So then why are so many people arguing?
Because they want to pretend that Ryan is innocent. I mean, if there's a debate here, it's that. There are a lot of people that are arguing Ryan Garcia's innocence when he looks so clearly guilty.
Well, if he's so clearly guilty, what are they arguing about? Why are they arguing his innocence?
Because they want to rub it in. They want to rub it in Devin Haney's face. Devin has a lot of people that don't like him. Gervonta Davis fans who don't like him, Lomachenko fans who don't like him, as well as Ryan Garcia's supporters, because he has his own faction of fans. There are a lot of people that want to be able to rub it in, but it's a little harder to do that when you know the guy was on steroids.
That's why they're arguing his innocence. They don't want him to be viewed as a dirty fighter, but that's very much what he looks like.
It's not a clean victory. They want it to be, but it's not.
Currently, I think Ryan is over there in Saudi, because he was over there for this past weekend's fight.
Didn't he fly to Dubai?
I don't know. But the whole hullabaloo around Ryan Garcia's doping case is there are people who want to argue his innocence when he looks so clearly guilty. He hasn't provided evidence of tampering. He hasn't provided evidence of cross-contamination for his supplements.
He's guilty.
The way I look at it, the guy cheated. He knew he cheated, but he's not alone. There are a lot of people that are doing this, and it's as simple as that.
It didn't start with him. It won't end with him.
We can speculate as to who else is cheating,
Because other people might be.
but that doesn't exonerate him of culpability.
He cheated.
Men's heavyweight news, it was announced earlier today that unbeaten Johnny Fisher will be facing Alen the Savage Babic in a heavyweight clash on July 6th in London.
This is going to be Alen Babic's first fight under the Matchroom banner in a while. Those of you will remember that. That's where he started out. That's where he
Amassed a bit of a cult following. His last 2 fights weren't under the Matchroom banner. 2 fights ago, he got knocked out by Lukas Rozansky, WBC Bridgerweight champion, and more recently, he was boxing under the Boxer banner. Opposite the ring, Steven Robinson. He knocked him out.
He won.
He's back in the winner's bracket, though let's be honest, it's not Alen that Matchroom is invested in. No, this is a developmental fight, a bring-along fight, and in some ways an acid test for unbeaten Johnny Fisher.
He's the Matchroom guy. I'm sure you've seen him here and there.
Sporting a professional record of 11 wins with no losses, no draws, 10 knockouts. To Alen Babic, who sports a professional record of 12 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 11 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 13 professional bouts. That was the knockout loss to Lukas Rozansky in Poland.
They've got about the same number of fights. They're competing at or around the same level, more or less. I think Johnny Fisher has a higher ceiling than Alen.
That's what separates them, as well as the height differential. Johnny Fisher is more adequately suited to campaign in today's heavyweight division, the land of the giants, than Alen. Alen stands in at a very modest 6'1", which is small for a heavyweight today. I've always said that Alen should slim down, go to cruiserweight or bridgerweight.
He did, and he got knocked out.
Competing as a heavyweight, a full-fledged heavyweight, is no better. He doesn't have the physical dimensions for it, and he doesn't have the skill to work around the natural size of many of these heavyweights.
Then how is he an acid test for Johnny Fisher, who's a lot bigger and several years younger?
Because Alen Babic presents a very awkward assignment, an awkward style for a young fighter who's still making his bones. You know Alen's not looking for a boxing match. He's going to put the pressure on you. So the acid test is being able to handle that pressure, and get the punches in. Because if you don't knock this guy out, he's gonna knock you out.
That's the assignment.
Johnny Fisher was very active last year. He fought 3 times last year, and he's already fought once this one, back in February. This will be his second fight of this year. If he makes short work of Alen Babic, if he stops him early, I see no reason to not get him back out there sometime in the summer or the fall.
You know, like if he goes in there and knocks out Alen Babic early, takes no punishment.
Remember, the Lukas Rozansky fight was over in the blink of an eye. It didn't last but a few seconds into the first round. So if his upcoming fight with Johnny Fisher lasts about that same amount of time, I see no reason to not get Johnny back out there.
He's got a cult following. He sells tickets.
Alen was turning into a bit of a fan favorite before that Lukas Rozansky knockout in April of last year. That's the only fight that he had last year. He took the rest of the year off after that. He came back in March of this one, stopping Steve Robinson in about 6 rounds. This will be Alen's second fight of this year, so he ain't got no ring rust to shake off. He's fought in the last 12 months.
That was a boxer show on Sky Sports.
I saw that fight. Steve Robinson, big guy like Johnny Fisher's a big guy. Alen Babic beat him like a drum.
That's why it's an acid test.
Even though there isn't a whole lot to Alen Babic's style, he's a pressure fighter through and through. He takes chances. He could knock you out or get himself knocked out trying.
Even among pressure fighters, there are levels, there are tiers, and Alen Babic's methodology, it's in the lower tier.
Though it still presents a challenge to a green fighter, a greenhorn, who doesn't have that much experience, doesn't have that many professional fights. You look at the height differential, that Johnny's so much bigger than he is, but Steve Robinson was a lot bigger than he was. You have to be able to manage it. A shorter, stumpier fighter with a lower center of gravity, barreling forward, coming right at you. It takes certain ingredients to beat a guy like that. We have to see if Johnny's got them.
Might get chin check.
Gotta see what kind of punch resistance Johnny's got and what kind of inside game as well. If Alen Babic gets inside on Johnny, that could be trouble because that's Alen Babic's sweet spot. And historically, being mid-range to inside for the shortest, stumpier fighter, that's where they want to be.
Can't let that happen.
So this will be a test of Johnny's range control, his jab, his reaction time, his power, and perhaps his punch resistance.
Yeah, if something actually gets in for Alen.
I like the fight. I like it. And I have to admit that as limited as Alen Babic is, he's been a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine because a guy like this, he's made for TV. He's either going to rack up a highlight reel knockout or end up a highlight reel knockout.
He's a fun guy to watch. I take him for what he is.
Let's talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.